Hello, I am Charlene of the Rainbow Frequency, and let's get metaphysical, metaphysical. Listen to the spirits talk, spirits talk. Yeah, because I myself am strange, and metaphysical, trying to get the air conditioning out of the YouTube and causing quite the ruckus, as per usual, right? I'm a little bit wild. So, as I'm waiting for you all to join me, today I'm going to give you a little of the thoughts that have been pinging around in my head that I wanted to chat with you all about. Sometimes you see things on the internet or in different platforms or channels where people are telling you information that isn't always true. For example, that there's never been a female Buddha. There has been. If you do your own research, it's quite easy. You don't have to dig but so much to find information where there are people who believe that Kuan Yin was a Buddha. I myself am in this camp. And in Siddhartha, and not that that's the end-all be-all on Buddhism, but at the same time, it's something that has been really ruminating in my mind. In Siddhartha, Siddhartha observes that there are different ways to get there, and that for some, they really like being in a group that has someone before them that tells them how to do it, what to do, when to do it, and gives them guidelines, and that works for some people. Whereas Siddhartha knew that for themselves, in order to get there, it was something they had to do on their own way, and that was their journey. And then in that process, they meet a ferryman, and again, this is a very my take and condensing it quite a lot. He meets a ferryman and realizes that this ferryman is just as much a Buddha, and at the end, and they're going off into enlightenment, so to speak, the ferryman, was someone who didn't have any formal training. They learned it on their own. They learned to speak to the river, and then they disappear off into the wild to commune and be at one with nature. That's quite beautiful. I love that. Yes, please sign me up. But no, I'm not here for that. I have a family. I have work to do in the world. Right? So, another of my favorite Buddha tales is because there are more than one Buddha, and anyone can be a Buddha. That's something that I love about the thought process in that. There's another tale of Buddha where they're in this river fasting and meditating and desperately working towards trying to get to enlightenment by denying themselves, and sometimes in our pursuit we can be that way, and it really only furthers the process, in my experience. And all of a sudden, this Buddha falls face first into the river, having passed out, and then they come to realizing like they're being ridiculous and that they need to be in the village amidst the people and the world living, and by weaving it all together, that's where they're going to find it. And I love that because that very much speaks to me and my journey right now. I very much identify with the wanting to be alone and a bit of a hermit in the journey. But at the same time, in this lifetime, I chose to be a part of a family, and I realize that's where there's so much to learn. And as much as our families can be a support to us, they're also the ones that know best how to push our buttons. They if we're going to learn patience, we have to be vexed. If we're gonna if as humans, if we're going to learn something, generally we have to be in conflict in order for it to have the ground to take hold. It doesn't always have to be that way. No, but humans are as humans do and behave, right? And that's part of what is happening, and why it's so uncomfortable is that we are evolving in how we do and how we behave. It's very, very challenging. It's very, very uncomfortable. There are many different belief systems out there, and I don't discount any of them. I try very much to be open-minded and inclusive. And personally, I do pay a lot of attention to astrology and anthropology and sociology, as well as really, I love the age we're in, where, again, if you use your discernment and know how to do your own research and don't take everything as complete fact, but really sit with things and cross compare, there's a lot that one can learn in this lifetime that previously would have taken so much longer and been so much harder. So hip hip hurrah for that. But we're gearing up for the 7-7 Sirius alignment. Sirius is a star that is brighter than our sun. I read this morning that it's 23 times brighter than the sun, which I'm going to further research, but 23 is one of those numbers that pops up. And hello to everyone that has joined. And if you want to in the future be in a live video with me, we can chat about it. I'm a planner. As much as I like to wing and go by the seat of my pants in these videos, talk to me and we'll plan something. But anyway, back to what I was saying. And then I will do some card pulls for people in a minute. So anyway, Sirius. 23 is one of those numbers. We have 23 chromosomes. It pops up a lot. Again, look into the number 23 and the symbolism, and because I don't have time to be here all day to tell you everything that's crammed into my brain, because I'm trying to put it all in here. And it has been connected to the Sphinx, or to how things align up in Egypt, and many different cultures. They have been paying attention to this formation of alignment, and something that, okay, when I do my meditation, which is a form of my energy work, I connect to the crystalline grid and then the center of the earth. And then I go up and I connect to the celestine grid in the center of the cosmos. And then I'm connected to the energies of above and below. And then it flows in that harmony. And to me, that is another correlation of the ley lines. And again, look these things up. Ley lines, Ley, I believe, yeah. And that's the grid that our Earth has. And then, you think about how the stars connect to where we are and the grid and these certain dates. And then they talk about that this is when Sirius comes into this alignment and it's brighter than our sun, we get all this into the Earth. Now, I don't care how you want to think about that, whether you want to go spiritual, scientific, I don't give a good rat's hind parts. I don't care. Light is light. And on many different planes, we understand that with more light comes growth. Plants, just saying, simple. I mean, I myself am strange and metaphysical, so I see the deeper meaning in it, but you don't have to. I don't care. Plants, we are no much more than sophisticated houseplants. We as humans in this ego factor like to think that we're above nature, that we're beyond it, but we're not. We are these like teeny organism in this giant petri dish of the Earth, and all the stuff above us is like, ah! And then we're like, ah! And then it's ebbing and flowing, and we're like, holy, what the? And it's the pressure that is there that helps us grow, and then we have this light. And if you look at plants, like, it's amazing that they can make it. It is. I mean, as a gardener, sometimes it is the most harrowing experience to try to nurture this plant into existence, and then something happens and bam! But I grew 2 sunflowers this year. One is super tall. The other one, I almost pulled it out, but then I've learned to be patient and just leave it and wait and see what happens. And sure enough, even though it's only like this big as opposed to like this big, it's getting 2 heads as opposed to 1. Hip hip, hurrah. So it's one of those things where we don't know what to expect. Sometimes we get really bummed out and we think it's a loss. But if you're patient and you wait and see what happens, oh, it wasn't so ooh as we thought it was, right? So that's where we are in the grand macrocosm and microcosm of human existence. It feels like a shit show. A lot of us, let's back this thing up. Okay, this isn't just a fun thing I do. Hi, my name is Charlene Shriver. I'm a Reiki master teacher or teaching master, however you want to put those words together. I don't really like labels, but I've worked really hard to get to where I am. I mean, from a child, I have been trying to understand astrology, numerology, astral projection, tarot, runes, anything and everything that I could out there, psychology, to understand the fucking shit show that was around me. I mean, my life quests as a young person, because I had family members who were not balanced, I wanted to be balanced and authentic. I saw all these people doing what they should, being sheeple. And I was like, oh, hell no. Child of the 90s. I rebel. I mean, look at me. I rebel. And I flee. And I was just like, I don't really see anything here that I could imagine myself doing that's worth the money that this would be, that my parents are trying to force me into thinking this is what I have to do. And really broke their hearts, but I said, no, I can't do this because I can't see myself in any of these things. And then I found myself at first waiting tables. I found myself to where I was like, wow, I'm good at this. I can multitask, I can move, I love talking to people. And then it was really creepy because people would come in once, and then the next time they'd come in, I'd be like, you want a sweet tea, and do you want the blah, blah, blah sandwich again? And they're like, what the fuck? Excuse me? And I was like, I really should do something more with my brain. I mean, as much as I think waiting tables, I think about doing it now sometimes because I could use some more money. And it is a wonderful flow, and I really do enjoy it. But I was just like, I should do something else with this because that's a little bit odd, and I wonder what else I could do. Then my friend suggested doing hair. And I was like, my grandmother was a hairstylist and had a salon on Escondido, off of Escondido Boulevard. And again, this was, I was born in the late 70s and grew up in a little playpen there and loved it. I mean, what a world. And what a bunch of ladies. And the things I heard. And let me tell you, also being in that world, I never really was shielded from the dark and ugly. And if anything, it made me damn determined to not be anyone's victim. And oh, hell no. I became the little chihuahua that could. And you want to belittle me, I will bite the ever-loving hell out of you. I've come a long way. I'm a lot nicer these days. I might bite you, but not really. Not really. It's just going to be pithy, I suppose. Maybe a little terse. But this is all to say that we are grown, we are shaped, we learn along the way. I really do believe we port into this vessel that we are in temporarily to learn something. And we might choose aspects of how it presents, but truly I think God or the powers that be up there, that I like to think of God as the governing order of divine source energy, because it's so expansive. I really don't want to put even God in a box of like being just so. Because who am I to conceive of what this entity is and is capable of? I mean, come on. I mean, there's so many times where they finally get through to me the message that they're trying to get in, and I'm like, well, duh. I'm so silly. Why did it take so long? But because it's so simple and brilliant that my human mind, I slow it down. I'm just saying. But anyway, I'm a Reiki master teacher, and I channel information clairaudiently, so clear hearing, and I feel things. I pick up people, the land, objects. Anyway, I have learned along the way how I connect to people, why it is I like to work with people, what it is that I'm doing in these things, and why it is that sometimes I know things. I mean, there are times behind the chair doing hair where I would have information that would come through for a person, and I'd be like, holy hell, I am smart, but I'm not that smart, because that's a concept, like maybe a scientific idea. One of which is that for renewable energy sources, we should connect to the biorhythms. I have always loved environmentalism, and I have been reading a lot of information on the subject wherever it comes up in magazines and things. I've been following it, sure. But at the same time, scientifically speaking, while my dad made me take physics, and I really enjoyed it, I wouldn't say that I'm a physicist. So it's just these things sometimes come in these clear thinking, and I personally had to work through the self-doubt and start to really listen to it, because luckily for myself, because I really do love researching things, I would research myself. I'd be like, why the hell did that pop into your brain? And is it true? So then I'd go do my research and then be like, yes, thanks, Noodle, you know? And that's that double-edged sword, or the shadow and the light side of things, where like I have to work past the self-doubt, but I've also learned to dig in and do the research, because for me, it isn't just enough to like, oh, I know that now. Great. I don't want to just keep like, do. I want to like, well, I want to know more about that. let's know the whys and the hows and the, I want to know a little bit more than just the superficial. And I think that's really important. And a lot of times is what is lacking in our culture, where I can speak as an American. I don't know as much about other cultures, but I'm starting to, because in the pandemic, I only could work online, for a while. And so I've been working internationally, and it's been so fun to meet people across the globe, and also have my mind expanded into the fact that, well, of course not everyone has the same animals that I have on my continent, and birds, and, like things that I take for granted, which is silly, but, like, what, you've never seen a deer before? Besides like on a picture? Wow. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Or a squirrel. It's so funny. There are people out there that hate squirrels because they have to deal with them. And then there are people who haven't had to deal with them and think they're the most wonderful creatures. So, little things like this, I just treasure, because I love learning. I love knowing about people and their feelings and how it all comes together. And it's that research anthropologist, social scientist in me that like, but it's also, again, we are who we are. And when you dig in to who you are, what you are, why you are, and then in that knowing, apply it to your journey, that you can make best use of it. And I keep saying the same things over and over. I really hope people listen. Get your chart done. You can do it online. I'm not an astrologist. I'm a stargazer, and I have been digging into my own chart, and it is so fascinating, because when you see the planets and where they fall in the houses, and read up on where that all goes and how it applies, in that digging in, you're like, holy shit, that's creepy as hell. It like pegs me to a T, because it isn't just one sign that defines you. That would be dumb, because there's so many Capricorns. We're not all the same. Again, those ley lines, because it's about where you're born, the time you're born, and how all the planets are in configuration. There's also the, like, on your conception date, that astrology. There's so much that one can learn about. Holy shit. And then, I'd separately been studying numerology, and only recently realized that they are one and the same, just different representations. But of course, duh. It's so amazing if you start learning. I'm just saying. And it takes work. So do it. And we're in this process of expansion, so lean into it. Don't cuddle rattlesnakes. Don't do things that are truly dangerous. But for me, the things that I had been a little bit afraid of were the things I really needed to lean into, or the things that challenged me or made me like that uncomfortable, nervous. But I really, once I started doing, it gave me confidence and made me feel alive. That's where, I had to go digging. And as a human and in this world, I let things like movies scare the shit out of me, so I didn't want anything to do with the other side. I thought it was going to be like the Poltergeist or Sixth Sense, but it's not. And it's something that's been there and comforting me and trying to speak to me however it can. You just have to learn to listen, tune in. I feel there's a movie, I believe it's called Contact, with Jodie Foster. And she is an astronomer, I can speak. And in it, they wind up connecting to outer space frequencies, and it uses the radio channels to talk to them. That's a bit how I feel. I feel very receptive. We all have the ability to be empathetic. We're all conduits in and of our nature of being. Some people think that not everyone has psychic abilities. And then there's talk about how not everyone has an inner dialogue or that inner voice dialogue. And I think personally, it's just that so many of us are numbing it out and misreading things. I think there are a lot of people out there who think they have anxiety, but are just misreading being empathetic, or they're being agitated by the fact that they're very attuned to their environment. Highly sensitive is another way of saying it. And you just have to know what it is that's going on and how you can best work with it. Personally, there are different things you can do to support yourself, to create your own healthy energetic boundaries. And it's important to learn, like in meditation, for example, to learn your own energy and what it feels like. So then when external factors come in, you know which is which. Anyway, that's a lot of babble. But I'll go back for just a second. Last year, when I started paying attention to Siddhartha and what they had to teach me, I had gone down to the river because I was learning the different things that I could speak with. And I wanted to learn to talk to the river. And whoop, I fell in. I fell into the stream of consciousness. Be careful what you wish for. Because, that is a flowing stream. And it's not always easy to hold on to things. Well, and that's part of the learning, is that, at least in Buddhism or certain mentalities, right? You have to learn to be lovingly detached. You're not meant to hold on to things. You're meant to be lovingly detached, to observe, breathe, before necessarily going into that reaction state. It's that alchemy, and again, something that keeps coming through is it takes sometimes an alchemy, and I'm talking about self-alchemy, that inner abundance building, which we're doing personally, but also in an odd juxtaposition collectively. So it's magnified and amplified. It's whoa, this is an intense time that we've signed up to be a part of. And there's this one meme I really do love where it's like empaths are like, oh my God, get me off this planet. Oh, I can't take it. And then they have to be reminded that they signed up to be here on purpose, to be a part of helping to raise the vibration. And you have to, in that, know that there are times with that ebb and flow to dig in, and then times to let yourself rest, no matter what it is that you're doing. Again, like, I'm 44. I should have learned this a long time ago so that I would have saved myself some exhaustion, but at the same time, I wouldn't have maybe learned it if I hadn't done it. We wear ourselves thin, we wear ourselves out, we become resentful, and then it causes havoc. We're our own jailers, we're our own catastrophizers sometimes. Not always, I'm not saying that, but sometimes we are. So sometimes you have to realize, okay, thank you for that. Where is there truth in it? Is there a lesson I need to learn in it? No, thank you. No, thank you. Push that away. That's sometimes necessary, because you have to wait it out. Sometimes things don't go the way you wanted it to or expected it to, but then you're going to get something to work with that might be better for you, or it is what it is. So being overly woe is me isn't going to help you. That's a little harsh. But I'm just saying, you can't turn it up to 11 and make it all aggro or emotional or aggressive. You have to be proactive, not reactive. That's a long-winded way to get there. If you want to have work get done, and something to be said that I've learned, like, screaming isn't going to have anyone listen to you. It's only going to make people shut down. Anyway, there's that little stream of consciousness. So I have some people here. Would anyone like me? I have options. Oh, they're combined. I combined my options. There we go. I have my bone casting bag, chakra cards. Let me put it down. Put it down now. And tarot. Would anyone like a card or something for me to do a personal reading? I'll do one for each person if they're feeling froggy and want to jump. If not, I'll just do my normal collective reading. But I'm gonna my readers, hold on. Christina R, chakra card. You got it. Yay! I love engaging. And thank you all for being here. I absolutely adore. Oh, okay. I adore you all, and I adore this engagement. Christina R., you got bittersweet. Now, personally, I love dark chocolate, so don't hate this card. Now, this when you're moving on in your journey, when you're moving forward, you know, you have to mourn what you're moving away from. When you're ending that chapter, sometimes we don't expect it, but we will mourn that chapter a bit, and then we step forward to moving to that peace, or that wish. I mean, you see this cake. So let yourself grieve what you need to grieve, even in a rebirth, right? You're going to need to lovingly grieve and have that ritual with yourself. One thing I really love, if you need this, take it, whomever wants this. This is something a friend told me when I was grieving my father passing, was that I should blow my grief into a hole in my garden. It took me a long time to listen to her, and I finally did, and it was so helpful. And in that, I also like to, in breathing my grief into the earth and gifting it to be transmuted into healing, harmonious energy, I like to put something in the hole. It could be a seed, it could be a crystal, it could be anything at all. But it's just also that homage, that little token that I like to put in there. And I am a sentimentalist through and through. But it's a part of how I made it my own ritual. And then I could see something grow from it, because I'm a gardener. And it made it takes time. If you put a seed in there, right? It takes time for that seed to grow and come up and come to flower, or whatever it is that you're putting in there, right? So it takes time to grieve. We like to rush ourselves. Don't rush ourselves, but you're flowing. So enjoy it, process it as needed, and then fly towards that wish. Thank you, HK. I started my training with Reiki, and then my guides kept telling me I was a shaman, and at first I kept shoving them away, because I was like, no, I'm putting all my money into Reiki. I don't have money and time for something else. And then I realized that shamanism and Reiki, they're just different words, and different peoples around the world have different names for things. So that was again one of those times where I was so daft and hard-headed, and I didn't want to listen because it wasn't the right word for me. Oh, silly person. Anyway, would anyone else like anything at all? Only one person. Oh, thank you, Christina R. Anyone? Doot. We'll do a little have some abalone energy along with my own. HK. And then with energy work, it is my intention to aid you in your highest good. This card reading is another form of energy work. My intention to aid you in your highest good in a way that delights you mind, body, and spirit. It's my energy, but it's led with the universal energy that we can call many different things. All right, so HK. I'm going to show you all. It's a combination of bones, teeth, shells, found objects. When I started training, I felt really connected to the North. And I was talking to my teacher about that, and she told me that it was symbolic of bones and the ancestors, amongst other things. And I had a dream. Well, and of course, I wanted her to have an answer that to guide me, and she told me to meditate on it, which really annoyed me, but at the same time, it's exactly what I had to do. We always want it to be just given, but no, you have to work for it. And in a dream, it came out that early form of divination was bone casting, because again, they didn't have cards. They had to use what they had. All right, let me make some room. So then I created my own from what I had. All right. What is HR? Or HK, sorry, HK. What is HK? Yeah. Okay, you got 3 objects. You got acorn. Sorry, 2 screens. And piece of slate. And a battleship. So acorn, piece of slate, and a battleship. One little bit of information for you all. It is very good luck. It is thought by some cultures to carry an acorn in your pocket. Helps you build prosperity. And, from the teeny acorn grows the mighty oak, which oak trees have a very expansive root system that is as wide as its tree canopy, so it's very stable. Symbolic of wisdom, many things. Dig into oak trees, because again, in that research and that digging into the symbolism, which a lot of times I will search the internet for the whatever it is, the symbolism of it, because that's where I find the most expansive, best information personally. But oak tree, slate. This is telling me that in order to bolster your reserves, to make yourself feel, and I don't want this to be conceived as like in a defensive state, but this is at your most like seaworthy, ship shape. You've got everything you need within energy, So for me, these are both earth elements, so it's telling me that you need to spend more time grounding. But with the chakra system, there's traditionally the 7 that people think of. They stop at the root chakra. But again, when I'm doing my work, I connect my tree to the crystalline grid and the center of the earth. So that is the different layers of the chakra system in taking myself on this earthly plane as the tree, and then rooting on down, the crown on down. So spend time with trees, put yourself into your tree form. I have meditations on here if you want to to look at those. But spend time feeling your connectivity to the earth as yourself. And then the slate, I have slate pavers in my yard, and I'll do yoga and in the garden, and they say to be barefoot on the earth to ground yourself, and it's lovely energy, it really is, but also feel different energies. And if you have some slate that you could put your feet on, that would also further sink it on down. My son pointed out to me the other day that rocks have been here longer than trees. You know, I'm not always so tree focused. I'm tree and rock focused, but it's connecting, almost, if you want to perceive it, like I will, in my meditations, I'll go through the list and I'll thank my ancestors, the ancient ones, the ascended masters, the animals. I work alphabetically and go on down. Anyway, so do this. Make it a daily habit. Make it a ritual of yourself to, I mean, again, it doesn't have to be very complex. Like, it started for me just enjoying my coffee outside in the morning. Sometimes all I really have to do is sit there with a cup of coffee and watch the bats and the sun come up, and that's enough. But it comes from within. So build it up and see yourself, when you take this time to build up this good energy and peace in yourself, then seal it in. You know, one way to do this is to see yourself as an egg, and then I'll have people see themselves, see the color of their egg, see the color that's around their egg, see the colors within their egg, and then hold on to this. You know, seal yourself in hermetically in a field that only lets in what's in your highest vibration or what's in your highest good to come in, and you can deflect and let everything else bounce off of you. You know, sometimes when we're dealing with the world and their bad days or whatever's, you know, they'll deflect or throw stuff at us. And a lot of times it's not necessarily even personal, so we shouldn't take it as such, but we do. And then it becomes even worse of a situation, right? So it's just that, like, sometimes you just have to have that field around you. And if someone's like, sometimes I'll see myself as a canary with a gas mask on, and their gaslighting can just bounce off of me. Or in my mind, I'll think, return to sender, address unknown, no such number, no such zone. You know, like, however, you know, one person's way that I love that I heard of was, she would say, shield up, Scotty. You know, however it is, but just, okay, thank you, no thank you. I'm not picking that up. Even with our families, I've learned, like, I love to help, love to fix problems, but with my family, sometimes they'll have a drama, a scenario, and I'll be like, all right, I hear you. I'm lovingly detached and available, yet I'm going to let you handle that because I'm not going to pick that up for you. It's not easy. It is not easy. But HK, you need to root on down to your inner knowing and stability, and really spend time sinking into that space so that you can navigate all waters with fortitude, clarity, and grace. Long-winded. Yes, I am. Anyway, anyone else? Thank you all for being here. Would anyone else like me to do a reading? You're welcome, HK. I would certainly carry acorns in your pocket. It couldn't hurt, right? Take them out of the pockets before you wash your clothes, I suppose. One of my things I'm learning is to be patient. So this is where I tend to just rush through and not be patient. So do it's very exciting to see names I'm familiar with and new names that I haven't seen before. So thank you again for coming. While we wait, I'm going to pull a collective chakra card for what will help us gain that. What does one do while they're being patient? Workaholic. We're learning collectively how to be better at balance. And one of the biggest places is how we work and how we feel about resting. And in order to be creative, you have to have that self-care and that resting for it to happen. Because when you're depleted, we see, I don't even really know, but we see, what I'm seeing is like a grape that has turned into a raisin, perhaps. And that is saying to me, when you drain yourself, there's nothing in there to give. In HK, same thing. When you're drained, there's nothing there to give, and we're meant for so much more than what we're applying ourselves to in a big macrocosm sort of thing, way of perceiving this. And I feel like a part of what's happening is we're having this Renaissance period where, and it was so funny because for years behind the chair with my clients, I kept telling them that they should quit their jobs. And I was just like, who am I? What am I saying this to people? But they were so unhappy. And it was just like, there's more to life than this job that you feel like you're chained to. And if you have one life to live, what do you want to do with it? How do you want to make the most of it? That was the overarching message. And it still is. It still is. And, it's one of those things that we had to almost have big things happen to force us to go within to reprioritize and reconfigure how we want to live, how we want to experience it, what we want it to look like, feel like. We're tapping in to our senses. I learned a while ago that our imagination is a sense. Hello. Why don't we talk about that more? Like, let's develop that. We don't develop that as we should. But again, we're having this Renaissance period where people are getting more creative. I see people picking up different forms of art, which are another way of doing energy work. The different notes in the musical scale, I believe that's how you say that. I'm not a musician. Connect to the different chakras. Hello? Music is healing? Yes. Different colors. Color therapy. Color healing. Yes, HK, I know. But that's the thing, is like, that's the same thing that meditation. In order to meditate, it's that ability to connect with your imagination and allow. So, yes, take time to get creative. Take time to listen. Take time to feel. Sign Winds, Crystal Sea Witch, yes. Do you want a chakra card, or do you want a tarot card? Yeah, our imagination, our intuition, it's another way that we can have things communicate with us. Tarot, that's what I thought. But I like dialogue. Just because I can be a bossy know-it-all doesn't mean I enjoy it. The Tower. Now, a lot of people don't like the Tower card. A lot of people fear change. I like the Tower card, but I am a glutton for punishment. I like to grit my teeth and power through to get there. Again, that part of my Capricorn placement, I suppose. But one of my favorite connotations of the Tower card is, why settle for a turret when you deserve the whole castle? Because traditionally you'll see just one tower, and the connotation is that it didn't have a stable foundation at the base, so it wasn't the right fit, so it wasn't meant to last, and it's crumbling, so that you can rework the structure to have the stability that you're looking for. In alchemical change, it takes agitation, it takes tension in order to nice to meet you, Miss Helen Baker Brooks, or maybe not Miss, I don't know, I shouldn't have said that part, I guess. Nice to meet you, Helen. In alchemical change, it doesn't necessarily just fluidly shift from one state to the next, right? It takes a little, I'm getting the message in this a bit with the lightning bolt, like Frankenstein's monster. There's a lot that goes into this to create the transformation. And a lot of times it feels crazy and intense, but let it fall into place. And we're in a period, all these things go together. We're shifting for the Piscean age to the Aquarian age, which is the Aquarian age is about us individually and collectively balancing that masculine and feminine within us all, the divine masculine and divine feminine energies, action and intuition. And we were previously very much in that action state, do. And again, with that workaholic card, you have to take the space to rest, to think, to process. You have to take that time, whether you're male or female or whatever it is that you are, you're affected by the ebb and flow of the universe, one verse. So don't expect to power through like the whole damn time, and cooking. The bread has to be proved in order to properly rise. Proven, however you say that. Things go into the oven and you have to leave them there for a certain amount of time before you can take them out. In gardening, you plant the seed, you have to be patient and wait for it to come to fruition. All right. You are welcome, Helen. So hello. Again, if anyone wants to be in a live with me, I'm a planner, so let's plan it beforehand. I don't want to just willy-nilly jump in. So there's that. But hello to everyone. Hello. Thank you for being here. Okay, we'll do another abalone for cleansing and purifying your energy. If you feel the energy of refreshing, soothing, and then take a moment and look at the colors. I'm going to do close-ups for the individual cameras, so bear with my arm, YouTube. When I first started receiving Reiki as a client, one of the first experiences I had was I would get the sensation of feeling a color. And I was like, what does that even mean? And then later, a friend of mine, Julian, was like, oh, you're an empath. I'm like, well, duh, of course. That makes so much sense. And then it was funny because I previously, again, up until recently, was so hung up on being frustrated with myself that I wasn't more clairvoyant. And like I wanted to see spirits. I wanted, like, once I got past being afraid, like I wanted more of that visual, like, I mean, I was like Veruca Salt, like I wanted all, more, like it wasn't enough to be clairsentient, clairaudient, and claircognizant. Like I want to see, damn it. And then I realized, like, you've been saying the whole time that you see, feel an image. And I don't know why, as much as I talk about how we shouldn't compartmentalize ourselves, I was compartmentalizing my abilities and expecting them to be delineated, and they blend together. Duh. And so it's just like that funny, a lot of times, I've said this before, it's these innate things that we do that we take for granted, that it takes the discipline, the acknowledgement at what we're doing to then really work with it and put it to the best use, And sure, I've learned a lot and gotten myself this far, but as long as I'm alive, I'm going to still be digging in and learning more. And that's that enjoying the journey, right? So anyone want a card, or I'll just do a quick reading for the collective before I sign off, to bid you adieu. Also, I mean, personally, I've never really prescribed to a religion because I never found one that was it for me. I really enjoy looking at them as a whole and how they overlap. But then it was funny because when I started digging in on this journey, all of a sudden I'd be meditating or different points in my life, and these deities or entities would pop in. Like, one thing to think about, and you might already know this, but an ascended master. What is an ascended master? It is someone who's on the other side, so to speak, that has mastered something in their human form, and then in spirit form are coming through because they want to further through whatever it was that they started. Right? So I'd be sitting there and be like, these energies would come through, and I'd be like, really? Like, I don't even know who Ishtar is. And then it's funny because years ago when I had written a fantasy novel, which was really just a channeled book trying to reach me and communicate with me about all this stuff that they were tantalizing me into leaving my mundane world and really throw myself into what I've always longed for. But first I had to write a fantasy novel about it and then realize I could live it. But in that fantasy novel, I channeled a prelude, or not a prelude. Oh, what's the word? Prelogue, whatever. I can't think of the word. Sometimes the English leaves me. Anyway, books sometimes have a little short teaser before the beginning of the actual novel. I'd written one of those, and it is one of my favorite things that I've ever written, and it was channeled, and I had to really look into these beings, people at the time, Hatshepsut and Sekhmet. Hatshepsut was a pharaoh, and she dressed as a male at the time. I mean, that's mind-blowing. Read into her, and I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And Sekhmet is an Egyptian goddess. And personally, I really love digging into the fusion and fluidity of these energies, these deities, and how they correlate across the board to one another. But Sekhmet is depicted as this lioness goddess, this mother goddess, protector, but also of war. And love isn't all fluffy and roses and sweet, right? Love is a battlefield. Love is many, many things. It's multifaceted, and there are many ways to love. There are many types of love. So anywho, it's that digging in and connecting to the surprises that await. And a lot of times, if it doesn't fit the narrative or how we would have expected, we have a tendency to push it away or discount it or dismiss it. In my lifetime, we've really come a long way with how we view emotions. And we're starting to really recognize, our gut health is linked to our emotional health. We're starting to acknowledge emotions and talk about how we need to process them instead of just shutting them behind a closed door and ignoring them, or like toughen up or this or that, right? So we've come a long way. We're expanding. It's uncomfortable. We tend to seesaw before we really get into the groove. At times we will catastrophize when it was something that needed to be changed all along. So, anywho, just saying. Does anybody else want a bone casting bag item, a card, or anything at all before I just launch in to the reading for the collective? Of my vat of coffee. A sidebar, when I first started learning Reiki, in the beginning of the textbook, it said to give up alcohol, coffee, or caffeine, and things, and have this pure vessel. And I was just like, wait, what? Like caffeine? And I talked to my Reiki teaching master. I'm like, is that true? Do I have to? And she said, no, you don't really have to do that part if it doesn't speak to you. And then I did my own research, and they're different orders or like monks or different traditions, peoples that in their spiritual practice, they utilize the caffeine so that it helps keep them awake during their meditation. So, everyone's different. To each their own. I mean, I definitely moderate my intake. All right, what do we need to know right now, collectively? All right, clear off tarot. Clear off the chakras. Shuffling is a way to clear your decks of other energies. But again, everyone's different. Everyone has their ways, their thought processes. All right, so first I'm going to pull a chakra card. For what chakra information do we need to know right now? already got the workaholic. I'll let you see if there's anything else collectively. All right. Now, when you come to this video, what you need to hear, because timeless and all. Guilt. All right. I wish I could find the workaholic card easily. Oh well. There it is. Workaholic and guilt. All right, so this was the first message, and this is the second. The guilt. Now, if you have a family, there are, of course, responsibilities, or if you have a job, if you have anything, if you have a life, which we all do, we're all living here, right? There are things that you're going to have to do to be responsible. So I'm not talking about that. But there's the laundry list of what we feel we should do. All the things, like a lot of times, if we're a caretaker type, it's almost like we will be like Atlas with all the burdens on our back weighing us down because we feel like we should do that, and I should do that, and I should think about that, and no, there's a lot of stuff that we do out of guilt that isn't really from the heart. So it's really not going to be giving the other party what they're even wanting in the first place. See, it's hard to do two screens and really focus on the card. But this person's doing what they feel they should be doing and what they feel is important for them to focus on. And then this person's in the background, like really sad and dejected because it isn't at all what they wanted. This happens in families all the time. You're trying to do something good, but because you're not necessarily communicating with the other party to see what they want, you just think you know what they want, and so you do it. We're learning that there really has to be that two-way street, that dialogue between both parties to have it be reciprocal. Also, when we do things out of guilt, it drains us, it makes us resentful, and really, is that helping? It isn't. And it isn't, like, in this card too, like, they have this halo, but their eyes are closed. So in this doing something out of guilt, you're closing your eyes to your higher consciousness, and you're only in the action state. You're not combining the divine feminine, the divine masculine, the action and intuition, the cerebral and the emotion, like the blending, the harmonizing. We have a lot of polarity going on, and that's what we need to drop and work through. I'll pull one more. Because we're going for joy. A part of the song that has been given to me as my healing song is that we are here to heal the earth, to bring back love, joy, and mirth. I've changed it to self-worth because I feel like in order to get to the mirthful, we have to build up that self-worth, which you can see in the solar plexus, that building that abundance from within. And it's that inner growth. You see, the flower growing within this woman. If you're in the workaholic mode, just going through the motions, doing what you should, living your life out of the shoulds and the guilt, it's going to drain and deplete you. And it's not going to put in the vibration that you're after. So think about that. And at the very least, allocate a few moments a day to doing something that brings you joy. And this woman, this person, this entity is just dancing with the flowers. So, if you can, for me, a simple way that I find my joy that's free is to go outside and be in nature, whether it's in my yard or I'll take a walk. And it's not much, but I try to see what's out there in the world, birds. I laugh at myself sometimes where I'm like, I should really raise my what brings me joy stakes, because I'm very simple. So maybe I'd get more if I raised them a little higher, like maybe I need a little more than a dragonfly, a flower, and a rock to sustain me, universe. But at the same time, like focusing on these small things are what amplify it. Like if I'm having a crap day, I've had an argument and I need to shake it off, I'll turn on music and dance, and that helps. It doesn't fix everything, no, but it certainly raises my vibrations and makes me feel better. So take ownership. Take ownership of yourself. Take ownership of where you are and what you can do in the equation. All right. Everybody out? Yeah. All right. All right. We got pyrite, a tooth, a shell with a hole in it, so a hag shell, and we got the ship again. Okay, so pyrite is an element of building abundance, prosperity, linked to the solar plexus. And there's more information to this than the brief bits that I'm going to throw out, but this is just for right now, the message. So we're working on building that inner abundance. This is the second one that came out. So in order to get through this portal, that we're in, this to go through. And shells, clams, it's that symbolism of taking the grit from around the world and working with it under pressure to building something within that's worth something. And we're going through this portal period to get through that healing, through that growth, through that building. And in that, this is an herbivore to, I believe, a deer. Deer, beautiful, beautiful energy that really, really exemplifies what I was saying about the divine masculine and feminine, because, herbivores, think about when you see rabbit or deer in the wild, they're eating and taking care of themselves, but they're also listening and feeling their environment. So it's that double process of intuition while in action. And a lot of times before they take flight and take themselves off to safety, a lot of times they'll freeze. And it's that taking that time to breathe, pull it all in together, to really understand what it is that's the threat, how you best want to go about navigating it. And a lot of times they make it and you're like, wow, Anyway, that's nature. I love watching nature. I mean, everybody's got to eat, so sometimes you gotta have the predator catch them, but a lot of times they don't. And it is that beautiful ability and connection to spirit, one could say, that helps them have that grace and that ability, again, that having everything that you need within to navigate what life throws at you and to be protected. And man, these things are always so long. I never mean for it to be so long, but it's so much fun, and it was really great to have a few people want cards. So we'll wrap it up. Also, you'll notice if you've been with me for a while, like these videos tend to come out more so around the new moon because I have more energy. Full moon, I need to really rest and recover and tap in. Bottom of the deck, Lady of Vessels, Ten of Wands, Knight of Swords, Knight of Staffs, Ace of Swords. All right. Bottom of the deck, Lady of Vessels. It's a period where we're really having to balance a lot emotionally. We're in that agitated state where in this card you see them. They're not moving, they're still, and they're trying to get that equilibrium, that balance. A lot of times I like to think of the ladies or pages in the tarot suit. If the knight is the action stage, the page is the conceptualizing, dreaming it in stage, the planning stage, the feeling it out before you move stage. And, in the physical body, they're tapped into the divine. Blue is representative of that truth that divine spiritual higher consciousness. They're standing on the water, so feeling the emotions, trying to balance them all in. Around them, you have this color of gold. So it's that feeling it all out and really tapping in to, one could articulate this as, that solar plexus. It could be also articulated as the Christ light, the Christos consciousness, Christ consciousness, that higher consciousness energy. And then this ewer, pitcher, vessel, vase, whatever you want to call it, on her head is orange with that divine feminine sacred vessel. So it's her divine feminine intuition within. Depending on where you live, in the US, we're in our Pluto return energy. And, in astrology, there tends to be different rounds and waves and ripples. And we're in that tension. And again, no matter where you live, talking to different people around the world, it isn't, different people are feeling it to varying degrees. And within continents, that variation is very much there too. However, we as a collective have had so many curveballs and different things happening that it makes you get very irritated, aggressive, agitated, tense, annoyed. But the advice right now, the overarching theme is to just observe, be patient as much as you can, feel it before moving. We have the Ten of Wands in reverse. I don't always read reverse cards. Sometimes I'll feel like it needs to be turned around. But in this, an end of a tough cycle, typically if it's like this, it's talking about how you have to make choices. What do you want to let go of to get yourself off that hot seat? Like it's too much pressure, it's too much heat, so something's got to give. What are you going to prioritize? What are you going to choose? But in this, we've been in that energy. Now we're getting off of that hot seat, and we'll flip it around to what is it that we're going to use to fuel us in our direction that best serves us for ourselves and our well-being, as well as the well-being of all involved. It's an alchemy. Personally, like your anger, all of those lower vibrational energies, so to speak, you can work with them and utilize them beneficially. Take your anger, and instead of being an erupting volcano full of lava or venom, you take it, what can I do with it to be more of a medicinal vapor, an elixir? Again, be more in that alignment with the truth and the higher consciousness so that it actually serves the situation. Then the obstacle is the Knight of Swords. And it's that don't be in a hurry to slay everything around you. This is the intuitive guidance from the card that I'm receiving. And it is when we're moving forward, building a new consciousness, leaving behind mindsets, narratives, behaviors, thought patterns, and moving forward in uncharted territory. Don't necessarily be in a rush to vilify things that are new. Take your time. You need to not just be cerebral. In the night cards, a lot of times there'll be some water depicted. But in this one, we got some bones. We have this dragon. We have the red on their helmet, which signifies like them being led by a grounded higher consciousness. They're protected by this golden shield. The bones of the ancestors. This dragon could be conceived or perceived as the night's shadow aspect, and sometimes you have to dig in to those shadows, those demons within, and instead of vilifying and slaying it and killing the ego, killing parts of ourselves, you have to learn to work with it or befriend the dragon, so to speak. So, don't be in a mad dash. Take your time and be grounded as you navigate this new terrain, this new mental growth. Again, do your own research. Don't take everything at face value. Dig into the bare bones, the truth of it. And the advice from Spirit is the Knight of Staffs. And it is that you are on a quest to blend all of these things together for yourselves, ourselves as a collective. The swords are our mental body, the cups are our emotional body, the staffs, the wands, it's that spiritual soul spark. And a lot of times we compartmentalize ourselves and we'll focus, the coins or the pentacles are the material plane. Like sometimes we're overly focused on our career. Sometimes we're overly focused on our relationships, and it's that whole kit and caboodle that we have to work with, blend together, and master to create that happiness. So, the advice from Spirit is to really protect and go after what lights you up. Like nurture it is a better word than protect, perhaps. Nurture the growth that you're building around you, within you, of what fuels you, what generates that building of passion, a new growth, both for yourself, and then it ripples outward to the material plane externally. And then the outcome is the Ace of Swords, new beginnings. Like that beginning of a quest, like King Arthur getting Excalibur for the first time, and you have the serpent on the sword. That's that Kundalini rising energy. And I love, it's not the full rainbow, but it starts in the heart space, this green energy. The golden is that solar plexus, that soul space, that Christ consciousness, that, again, that compassionate higher consciousness is another way to put that energy. And then the head being red, that grounded, pulling it all, let's say simplifying Kundalini energy. It's the concept of raising your power up that spinal column. So this is what I'm seeing. And it's saying that this originates from the heart and then explodes into that Christ consciousness, and that's the head space that will really direct us with true clarity and proper direction, and bring us that peace that we're seeking. Again, this is some very symbolic, deep way of saying it, but no matter how you apply it. And I love you too, Diabolic Nonchalance. I don't care what it is. If you want to apply this to awakening, if you want to apply this to, I had some bad behaviors that I am working on letting go of, like being a people pleaser. So it really takes a lot of time to work through that, to create the new behaviors. And a lot of times, like if you're a people pleaser and you start saying no, you start having boundaries, there's going to be uncomfortable responses, and you can't vilify it. Those who support you will help you grow into your best self. The people who aren't interested in allowing for that change within you for your healthiness, let them go. You know, new quests, new mental terrain, new consciousness, and peace. This is what we're seeking. Who's with me? All right. Whew. That is freaking the longest video I've ever done. And my Lord, no wonder I don't do but so many of these long ones. It takes a lot of energy. But I absolutely adore you. And it is important to me to provide this free content. And this is how I come at you. I'm not going to ever solicit your inbox and say, oh my God, I have an important message. Your energy really, really pulled me, and I got this. Now pay me. Oh, that's tacky. I don't like that. Anyway, best wishes, all the love. This is the free content I support you with. Very much love it when you ask me for a card so I can give it to you directly. But I'm here should you want to work with me, and be wary, do your own research, and people who come at you aggressively and from a superficial vibe, just saying, those red flags are your intuition and you should pay heed. Just saying. Best wishes, all the love. See you next time. Oh, 2 screens. I don't know why I do this. Thank you. Sorry, YouTube. It's been a while and I haven't been here. I am on Instagram, obviously, and I do provide more content there. So follow me on Instagram, The Rainbow Frequency. I'm also on Pinterest.